didn't kneel before the alien Empress. He stared at her captain. Eric Vale's boots clicked softly against the metallic floor of the starship as he walked toward the airlock. His crew followed quietly behind him, their faces tense, eyes flicking nervously between him and the vast expanse beyond the open hatch. Outside, the throne world of the alien Empress Velora shimmered beneath two suns, its floating cities suspended in the air like islands in a sea of light. Towering spires of crystalline structures reflected the sun's radiance, sending rainbow-like patterns dancing across the atmosphere. Eric's heart thumped, not with fear but with anticipation. He had faced dangerous worlds before, but none quite like this. The crew's whispers filled the corridor. "Do we really have to go down first?" one asked, his voice betraying anxiety. Another muttered about the countless delegations that had knelt and bowed, all hoping to appease the Empress. Eric stopped and turned, placing a hand on the shoulder of his first officer, Lyra. "Remember," he said calmly, "we are here to negotiate, not to submit. The way we carry ourselves matters more than our fears." Lyra gave a half-smile, though her eyes still betrayed uncertainty. "You really think standing tall will work? Everyone else kneels, Eric. Everyone else obeys her rules immediately. You're different." "I've never believed that fear should dictate my actions," Eric replied simply. "If we bow because we're afraid, what kind of message does that send? We are humans. We have principles and we stand by them. That's why they called me to this throne world." The airlock hissed and began to open, revealing the brilliant sky of the throne world. Floating platforms stretched in every direction, connecting cities that hovered gracefully in the atmosphere. Alien ships glided silently between the spires, their designs elegant and unlike anything Eric had seen. His crew stepped cautiously onto the platform, their boots barely making a sound against the smooth surface. Eric followed with steady confidence. A group of alien attendants, tall and slender with shimmering skin that reflected the light of the suns, approached silently. Their elongated limbs and piercing eyes made them appear almost otherworldly, but they did not attack or threaten. Instead, they observed, their movements precise and calculated. Eric held his head high, making eye contact with each of them as he passed. As they reached the central city, the throne room came into view. It was vast, far larger than any chamber Eric had ever entered. Crystalline walls rose high, catching the sun's light and scattering it like liquid fire across the room. Hovering orbs of light floated throughout, casting soft illumination over the polished floor. In the center, atop a dais of translucent stone, sat Empress Velora. Her presence was magnetic. Her skin shimmered like liquid metal, her eyes deep and calculating, her hair a cascade of light that seemed almost alive. The sheer authority she radiated could silence an entire army, yet Eric felt no fear. Every ambassador, every delegate, every soldier who had come before him had kneeled instinctively. It was tradition, a ritual of submission to her power. The whispers in the room confirmed it, yet Eric did not move toward the floor. He stopped a few meters away, his posture straight, his gaze steady. Velora's eyes narrowed slightly, her head tilting as if studying him as a specimen. A faint ripple of surprise passed through the attendants and council members surrounding her. No human had ever met her gaze like this. She could almost smell the disbelief, the tension, the audacity radiating from him. "Human," she said, her voice smooth and commanding, echoing slightly in the chamber. "You know the tradition. You know what is expected of you." "I know," Eric replied, his voice calm, steady. "I also know that respect cannot be demanded, it must be earned, and I am here to discuss terms, not to perform rituals." The room fell silent. Even the council members, who were usually quick to respond with insults or threats, paused. Velora's eyes studied him, curiosity flickering beneath her controlled exterior. "You understand the danger of defiance, human. Every being who has challenged me has met failure." Eric's lips curved into a faint smile. Then I will be careful, but I will not bend to fear. Velora inclined her head slightly, almost imperceptibly, and then gestured for him to approach. Eric took measured steps, keeping his posture straight, his gaze never faltering. The attendants shifted slightly, unsure how to react. Even her advisors, seasoned beings who had witnessed countless negotiations, whispered among themselves, astonished at his audacity. The Empress rose from her dais, her movements fluid and regal. Each step she took caused the light around her to shimmer and shift. Eric held his ground, never lowering his eyes. The room seemed to stretch, the energy almost tangible as if reacting to the defiance in the air. "You do not fear me," Velora said softly, almost a whisper, yet it carried across the chamber. "Humans are supposed to be fragile, weak, easy to intimidate, yet you stand as if you were born of courage alone." "I am human," Eric replied. "We are often underestimated. We survive because we think, because we feel, because we endure, not because we submit." A flicker of amusement crossed Velora's face. She motioned for her counsel to step back. "Very well, you will speak human. Tell me why I should consider your species equal, why I should negotiate rather than dismiss you." Eric took a deep breath, glancing at his crew before turning fully to face the Empress. "Because humans have something rare in this galaxy. We value trust, understanding, and cooperation. We do not rely on fear to govern, and we do not use power for its own sake. We create alliances, solve problems, and think beyond immediate gain. That is why I stand here without kneeling." Velora's eyes narrowed and a faint smile touched her lips. She was intrigued and she made a decision. "If your words hold weight, human, then you will have the chance to prove them. The path ahead will test not your strength but your mind, your courage, and your heart." "Are you ready to face it?" Eric nodded. "I am ready, always." With that, the Empress gestured toward a massive door at the far end of the chamber. It slid open silently, revealing a corridor lined with glowing symbols and flowing streams of energy. Velora motioned for him to enter. The attendant stepped aside, allowing Eric to pass first. His crew followed, hearts pounding but bolstered by his calm example. As they moved down the corridor, Eric couldn't help but observe the intricate designs of the alien civilization. The walls pulsed with soft light, showing scenes of history, science, and art, all flowing like living paintings. There was a beauty here, an intelligence that went beyond brute force. Humans were capable of great innovation, but even Eric had to admit that this empire had mastered the art of combining beauty and technology in ways he had never imagined. The corridor ended at a massive chamber, its ceiling lost in shadows, its floor glowing softly beneath their feet. Velora's voice echoed again. "This is the chamber of trials. Here all who wish to speak with me must demonstrate their worth, not by submission but by understanding." Eric stepped forward. He felt a thrill of anticipation. Every step he took was deliberate, measured. He did not falter, nor did he hesitate. The trials were unknown, but he trusted his instincts, his intelligence, and his humanity. That was his greatest strength. Velora's presence lingered at the entrance of the chamber, watching him with eyes that seemed to pierce through the soul. "Few survive this chamber unbowed," she said. "Fewer still impress me. Let us see if humans are as remarkable as you claim." Eric did not flinch. He could feel the weight of history, the expectations of countless beings who had faced this chamber before him. But he walked forward with confidence, not arrogance. He was not here to prove himself to the galaxy. He was here to show that humanity had value, that courage and integrity could stand alongside the most powerful forces in the universe. As the door closed behind him, shutting out Velora's gaze for the moment, Eric felt a mixture of excitement and focus. The trials would be challenging, unpredictable, and perhaps frightening. Yet he welcomed them. For the first time in his life, he was standing in a place where his choices, his perspective, and his humanity could make a difference not just for himself, but for his species. The chamber of trials began to hum, its energy shifting, responding to his presence. Symbols glowed brighter, pathways opened, and illusions danced along the walls. Eric took his first step forward, fully aware that the eyes of an entire empire, including its enigmatic Empress, were upon him. He would not bow, he would not break, and he would not fear. He was human, and humans were not meant to kneel. Eric stepped carefully into the chamber of trials. The air shimmered with energy, soft vibrations flowing through the floor, walls, and ceiling. Glowing symbols hovered in midair, shifting shapes in patterns he could almost understand. He could feel the intelligence of the chamber itself, as if it were alive and watching, judging his every move. His crew, following a step behind, whispered nervously, but Eric held his head high. They looked to him for guidance, for courage, and he would not disappoint them. The first trial began almost immediately. A voice, melodic and echoing, filled the chamber. Human, your first test is simple yet profound. You will face a challenge of perception and understanding. Choose wisely, for the wrong path may lead to failure. Before him, 3 pathways opened. Each glowed with a distinct color, one golden, one silver, and one deep violet. Symbols floated above each path, incomprehensible to any human except in their subtle patterns. Eric studied them closely, noticing small hints in the shapes, patterns that suggested balance, empathy, and careful observation. He had no way of knowing if his interpretation was correct, but his instinct told him that humans often succeed when they trust careful thought over rash action. He took a deep breath and stepped toward the golden path. His crew murmured, questioning his choice, but Eric kept moving. The floor beneath him pulsed softly with each step, as if acknowledging his decision. The golden path led into a chamber filled with illusions. He saw figures resembling his crew standing frozen, their faces filled with fear. Eric's heart skipped a beat, but he realized immediately. These were not real, they were projections, designed to test his mind and his emotions. He paused, closing his eyes for a moment. "They are not real," he whispered to himself. "This is a test of perception, not emotion." He stepped forward, moving through the illusions calmly. Each figure reached out to him, pleading silently, their eyes wide. Eric ignored the urge to respond emotionally, instead observing each carefully. He noticed subtle differences. One figure's shadow moved differently, another's reflection was slightly delayed. By seeing the truth behind the illusion, he navigated the chamber without faltering. At the end of the path, a soft light pulsed, signaling success. A gentle hum filled the chamber, acknowledging his correct perception. Eric exhaled, allowing himself a small smile. The trial had not been easy, but he felt confident. This chamber was designed to confuse and distract, but he had relied on clarity and observation, skills humans had honed over millennia. The next trial was more complex. The floor shifted beneath him, forming a series of platforms suspended over what appeared to be a bottomless void. Above, floating shapes glimmered, moving in intricate patterns. A new voice spoke, softer this time, yet firm. "Human, this trial is one of reasoning and choice. Each step you take affects the world around you. One wrong choice and the path collapses. Proceed with care." Eric studied the platforms. Some were solid and steady, others wobbled slightly. It was impossible to tell which would hold under weight until he stepped on them. He remembered lessons from humanity's early explorers and engineers. Careful observation, small tests, and logical deduction often revealed solutions where brute force could not. He placed his foot on the nearest platform. It shifted slightly, but held. He moved slowly, testing each platform before committing his weight fully. As he progressed, patterns emerged. Platforms that glimmered with soft light were stable, those that flickered with faint shadows were unstable. He began to see the rhythm of the chamber, learning to move in harmony with it. Halfway across, a projection appeared, a figure resembling Velera herself, gesturing toward a platform that seemed safer. The figure's eyes, though artificial, bore a challenge. Eric paused, thinking carefully. He realized this was a test of trust as well as reasoning. The figure might be helping, but it could also be a trap. He remembered Velera's words about fear and obedience. Humans often succeed because they think critically and act independently. He ignored the projection, choosing instead based on his observations. Each step brought him closer to the opposite side, his confidence growing. Finally, he reached the last platform. The floor beneath shimmered, and the chamber acknowledged his success with a soft, harmonic tone. Eric's crew cheered quietly, amazed at how calmly he had navigated the challenge. The third trial began immediately after. The chamber shifted again, walls sliding silently to reveal a new environment, a serene garden filled with alien flora. Colors were brighter than anything on Earth, and the air shimmered with faint energy patterns. Yet something felt wrong. He noticed small movements, flowers bending unnaturally, shadows moving independently. A voice spoke, echoing gently through the garden. "Human, your third test is of empathy. These beings appear harmless, but they are not as they seem. Your task is to understand their needs, to act with care, not dominance." Eric stepped lightly into the garden. He observed the creatures, small, glowing beings that resembled plants and animals combined. Some quivered when he approached, others followed silently. He realized that aggression or haste could harm them. Instead, he moved slowly, speaking softly in his mind, imagining that his thoughts could reach them. As he interacted with the beings, he noticed patterns in their behavior. Certain gestures calmed them, while sudden movements caused them to retreat. Eric adjusted his movements accordingly, guiding the creatures to the center of the garden. The chamber responded to his empathy, colors brightening and light flowing smoothly through the environment. He felt a profound connection to the beings, not through power but through understanding. The fourth trial appeared as he reached the center. A holographic map of an alien city rose from the ground. The voice returned, firm yet calm. "Human, your final trial is one of leadership. You must guide these beings safely to their destination. Use your mind, your observation, and your empathy. Coercion and fear will not succeed." Eric studied the map carefully. The city was complex, filled with twists and hidden paths. He realized immediately that the solution was not forceful control, but guidance and planning. He gave careful instructions, moving deliberately, anticipating obstacles and adjusting as needed. The beings responded to his calm authority, following him willingly rather than by fear. As they reached the final destination, the chamber pulsed with light, acknowledging his success. The trials were complete, and Eric had demonstrated perception, reasoning, empathy, and leadership, qualities that no other human had been given the chance to show in this environment. Suddenly, a projection of Velera appeared before him. She did not look angry nor amused. She simply observed, her eyes sharp yet thoughtful. "Human, you have completed the trials with skill, clarity, and integrity. Few beings, even within my empire, could achieve this. You have not bowed, you have not faltered, and yet you have proven yourself worthy of respect." Eric straightened, meeting her gaze. "I did what I had to do, Empress. I acted with honesty, with thought, and with humanity. That is all I can offer." Velera's eyes softened slightly, an almost imperceptible smile forming on her lips. "You are unlike any human I have encountered. You possess the courage to stand, the wisdom to observe, and the heart to care. These are rare qualities, even among the most advanced species. Perhaps I underestimated your people." Eric's crew approached cautiously, unsure how to respond. They had never seen Velera react like this. Even the attendants seemed surprised, their usual stoic expressions betraying curiosity. "Empress," Eric said gently, "I am here not to impress or to boast, but to show that humans can be trusted, that we can work together. That is the value of standing tall, not to show defiance, but to demonstrate integrity." Velera regarded him for a long moment, her gaze deep and piercing. Then, with a fluid motion, she gestured toward the exit of the chamber. "You may leave, human. You have proven your worth in ways that even my most loyal advisors could not have predicted. I will consider the implications of your success." Eric and his crew stepped out of the chamber of trials, the tension in the air replaced by a sense of accomplishment. The trials had tested every skill he possessed, every lesson he had learned as a human. And he had passed, not through force, not through fear, but through thought, empathy, and courage. As they returned to the throne room, Eric noticed the subtle shift in the atmosphere. The attendants and council members regarded him with curiosity rather than disdain. Velera herself watched silently, her expression unreadable but not unkind. Something had changed. The human who refused to kneel had earned attention, respect, and perhaps the beginning of trust. In the following moments, Eric reflected on the experience. The throne world was not just a place of power, it was a test of values. Where other species relied on fear, humans relied on something different, something Velera had rarely encountered. Integrity, empathy, reason, and courage, qualities that were not always flashy but enduring. He realized that this was only the beginning. The trials had tested him, but the true challenge lay ahead, negotiating with Velera and her council, proving that humanity could be an ally rather than a subject, a partner rather than a subordinate. And Eric was ready. He had stood where others would have knelt, and he had survived. More importantly, he had demonstrated that humans could face the unknown with confidence and integrity. Velera's voice finally broke the silence as they approached the throne. "Human, your actions today will be remembered. You have demonstrated qualities that many of my empire's finest lack. We shall see if this respect can translate to understanding and alliance." Eric nodded. "I will do everything I can, Empress. Not for glory, but for trust and cooperation." Velera inclined her head slightly, her gaze lingering on him for a moment longer. Then, with quiet authority, she returned to her seat, signaling that the next stage of their encounter was about to begin. Eric knew that this was just the first step in a journey that could change the relationship between humanity and the Empress Empire forever. He had faced the trials, and now he would face the council, the politics, and the complex web of alien diplomacy. But he did not fear. He had learned that courage and honesty could be more powerful than submission, and that sometimes, standing tall was the only way to be heard in a galaxy that valued power above all else. And as he prepared for the next stage, Eric Vale understood that humans were remarkable not because they bowed or obeyed, but because they could stand, think, and act with integrity, qualities that even the most powerful beings could respect. After completing the Chamber of Trials, Eric Vale felt a sense of calm determination settle over him. The trials had tested every skill he possessed: perception, reasoning, empathy, and leadership, and he had emerged successful. Yet, as he and his crew were led back through the crystalline halls toward the heart of the throne world, Eric knew the most important part of this encounter was still ahead: understanding Velera herself. The corridors were quiet, the floating city outside shimmering with sunlight and alien energy. Every step seemed to echo the unspoken challenge. The human who refused to kneel had made it this far, but the question remained: what would he do next? Eric's crew whispered among themselves, careful not to disturb him. He walked in silence, taking in the intricate beauty of the city. Towering spires rose and fell like waves frozen in time, and streams of glowing energy connected the floating platforms. The aliens' mastery of technology and art was breathtaking, yet Eric noticed something deeper. Despite all this power, there was a sense of loneliness woven through the brilliance. Velera awaited him in a private chamber. Unlike the throne room, this space was quieter, more intimate. The walls glowed softly, casting gentle light across the room, and the air was filled with the faint hum of energy. Alien artifacts and objects of beauty lined the shelves, each radiating a history and story. Eric entered and the Empress turned her gaze toward him. "You have completed the trials with skill," Velera said, her voice calm but layered with curiosity. "Few have ever done so without faltering. You have earned my attention, human. Now I will show you something few outsiders see." Eric's brow lifted. "I am honored, Empress. I hope to learn as much as I can." Velera moved gracefully to a low console and activated a holographic display. Images of past leaders, battles, and achievements floated in the air, each carefully preserved. "These are the records of my empire," she said. "Every victory, every failure, every decision ever made by those before me. Observe them closely. You will see that strength alone does not secure loyalty. Fear alone does not inspire devotion. Even my most powerful generals obey me, but not always with genuine respect. They follow obligation, not trust." Eric studied the images. There were battles where armies followed orders out of fear, only to falter when the outcome was uncertain. There were leaders who relied on intimidation, but their empires crumbled when unity and understanding were required. He realized the point Velera was making. Her empire was magnificent, but it was also fragile in ways she rarely revealed. "You are isolated in your authority," Eric said softly, thinking aloud. "Even with all this power, you must wonder if anyone truly stands beside you willingly." Velera's eyes narrowed slightly, and a faint smile touched her lips. "You are perceptive, human. Many see only the surface, strength, wealth, control. Few notice the burdens beneath. You stand tall where others bow, and yet you are not arrogant. Perhaps that is why I find you interesting." Eric nodded, sensing the rare opportunity. "I do not wish to impress or to threaten. I wish to understand. Humans value trust, respect, and honesty. Perhaps these qualities can bridge the gap between our species." Velera's smile widened, though she did not fully relax. "I have spent centuries learning to govern through strategy, intellect, and authority. Few have approached me with the clarity and courage you demonstrate. It is refreshing, though unexpected. Tell me, human, what motivates you to act with such conviction?" Eric considered his answer carefully. "We are taught that our actions define us, not our fear. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act in spite of it. Humans endure because we think, we feel, and we care. That is why I do not kneel, and why I choose to act with honesty and empathy rather than submission." Velera's eyes studied him closely, her usual intensity softened by curiosity. "You speak as though you understand more than the average human. Perhaps you do, or perhaps your species is truly exceptional in its simplicity and clarity." Eric smiled faintly. "I think humanity is exceptional not because we are stronger or faster, but because we strive to understand, to connect, and to endure. We are curious and we adapt. We value cooperation over dominance, and that makes us resilient." The Empress remained silent for a moment, studying him. Then she gestured toward a set of artifacts on a low pedestal. These belonged to leaders who attempted to rule through fear. They commanded armies, conquered planets, and yet their empires fell apart because they did not inspire loyalty. "Look closely, human. Observe not the power but the consequences." Eric walked over and examined the artifacts. Symbols of leadership, worn armor, and ceremonial objects were arranged meticulously. He noticed subtle marks, scars of conflict, wear from repeated use, and small inscriptions that hinted at lost wisdom. Each piece told a story of ambition and isolation, of rulers who demanded obedience but could not earn respect. "They trusted only in their power," Eric said quietly. "And power alone cannot maintain an empire. Respect, understanding, and empathy are just as important. Without them, even the strongest leader can fail." Velera's eyes sparkled with approval, though her expression remained composed. "You understand far more than I expected. Many come before me seeking favors, gifts, or to demonstrate strength. Few notice the subtleties that truly matter. You see not just with your eyes, human, but with your mind and heart. Eric glanced around the chamber, taking in the artifacts and the subtle details of Velera's surroundings. I believe that every species has strengths and weaknesses. Yours is incredible, yet even the greatest strengths must be balanced with wisdom and understanding. That is why humans can be valuable allies. Velera tilted her head slightly, intrigued by his perspective. Perhaps. Humans are often underestimated. Some believe you are fragile, simple, or limited, yet you display insight that rivals even my most trusted advisors. It is unexpected. Eric felt a sense of mutual respect growing between them. The trials had tested his abilities, but this conversation tested something deeper, the Empress herself. He realized that Velera's power was immense, but it was tempered by her isolation. She was used to fear and obedience, not honesty and courage. You are not used to being challenged in this way, are you, Empress? Eric asked gently. Most expect you to intimidate and they obey. Few confront you with clarity and integrity instead of fear. Velera's lips curved into a faint smile. You are correct, human. I am not accustomed to beings who face me with such directness without flattery, deception, or submission. It is disarming in a way I did not anticipate. Eric nodded. That is how humans communicate. We value honesty, clarity, and understanding. We do not bow because we fear, but we respect when respect is earned. That is why I have stood tall today. Velera regarded him silently for a moment, then leaned back, her posture relaxed but still commanding. You have passed the trials, Eric Vale, not because you are stronger or faster, but because you are human. Your courage, clarity, and integrity have impressed me. Few beings, even within my empire, can achieve what you have done. Eric's crew exchanged glances, clearly amazed by the Empress's words. Even the attendants seemed less formal, their expressions softening as they observed the interaction. Eric remained calm, though, focused on the conversation and its implications. You have learned about my empire, Velera continued. Now I wish to learn about yours. Tell me, human, what makes your people remarkable? What makes them worthy of alliance rather than subjugation? Eric spoke with quiet conviction. Humanity thrives because we value connection. We build communities, solve problems together, and endure challenges that seem impossible. We are not the strongest or the fastest, but we are resilient because we think, care, and act with integrity. That is why humans are valuable allies. We do not rely on fear or force to succeed. We rely on understanding, cooperation, and courage. Velera's eyes softened further, a rare display of admiration. You speak wisely, human. I have encountered many species that rely on intimidation, trickery, or dominance. You are different. Perhaps humans are stronger than I have been willing to admit. Eric inclined his head. Strength is not only measured in power or weapons, Empress. True strength lies in wisdom, courage, and empathy. Humans endure because we face challenges with our minds and hearts, not just our bodies. That is the gift we offer to the galaxy. Velera regarded him for a long moment, her gaze intense yet thoughtful. Then she spoke, her voice softer, almost contemplative. You have taught me something today, Eric Vale. You have reminded me that power alone is not enough. There is value in clarity, integrity, and courage. Perhaps there is more to humanity than I assumed. Eric smiled faintly, sensing the profound shift. We are not perfect, Empress, but we strive to learn, to understand, and to endure. That is what makes humans remarkable. Velera leaned back in her seat, her expression contemplative. You have earned my respect, human. Not because you knelt or obeyed, but because you stood tall, acted with integrity, and demonstrated the values of your species. That is unusual and it is admirable. As the conversation drew to a close, Eric realized that he had achieved something even greater than passing the trials. He had begun to build a bridge between humanity and the Empress, based not on fear or submission, but on understanding and mutual respect. It was a small step, but one that could have profound implications for the future of both species. Velora finally stood, her presence commanding yet not threatening. "You may leave this chamber, human. You have shown me that humans are not only capable of courage and wisdom, but of empathy and integrity as well. These qualities are rare in the galaxy, and you have demonstrated them with clarity. I will remember this." Eric bowed his head slightly, not in submission but in respect. "Thank you, Empress. I hope that our species can continue to learn from each other and work together." Velora watched him leave, her gaze lingering for a moment longer. "Perhaps humans are not so simple after all," she murmured to herself. As Eric and his crew exited the chamber, the floating city stretched out before them, bathed in the warm glow of the suns. The throne world was magnificent, but he realized that its true wonder lay not in its beauty or power, but in the opportunity to connect, to understand, and to build trust across the stars. For Eric Vale, this was only the beginning. The trials had tested his mind and heart, but the journey with Velora and with humanity's place in the galaxy was far from over. He had glimpsed the complexity of the Empress, and he knew that understanding her would require patience, courage, and integrity. But he was ready. And as he looked back at the towering spires and glowing energy of the throne world, Eric knew that humans had already begun to leave a mark on the galaxy, not through fear, domination, or submission, but through courage, clarity, and the quiet power of standing tall. Eric Vale walked back toward the central chamber of the throne world with measured steps, each one resonating with a quiet confidence that unsettled his crew and intrigued the Empress's attendants. Outside, the floating city glittered like a tapestry of stars caught in a sunbeam. Every spire and platform shimmered in a delicate balance of alien engineering and energy, a testament to Velora's empire. But Eric's focus was on the council. The council that had dismissed every previous ambassador as insignificant, that had laughed at the very idea of a human speaking on equal terms. He entered the council chamber, a vast hall ringed with towering crystalline seats occupied by the Empire's advisors, generals, and scholars. The atmosphere was tense, filled with the low hum of floating energy and quiet whispers. All eyes turned to him, a human standing tall where others would have kneeled. Even the attendants, usually silent and unmoving, regarded him with cautious curiosity. Velora was already seated at the head of the chamber, radiating authority and calm control. Her eyes, sharp and perceptive, rested on Eric. A faint smile curved her lips. "Human," she said softly, "you have passed the trials and observed the truth of my empire. Now you will demonstrate the worth of humanity to my council. Let us see if your courage and clarity can stand before scrutiny." Eric nodded and stepped forward. "I am prepared, Empress," he said, his voice clear and steady. He turned to face the council. "Honored members of the council, I come not to command, not to dominate, but to demonstrate the values that humans hold dear. I ask only for your attention and your willingness to understand my people." A ripple of murmurs ran through the chamber. The council members were known for their quick judgment, their skepticism bordering on arrogance. Many had assumed that a human would falter under pressure, bow to authority, or resort to flattery to survive. Eric did none of these things. He stood calm and unwavering, speaking with clarity and respect. One counselor, a tall being with iridescent skin that reflected the light in waves, spoke first. "Human, your species is small, fragile, and inexperienced. How can you claim to offer insight to a galactic empire that has existed for millennia?" Eric smiled faintly. "Experience and size do not always define capability. Humans survive not because we are the largest or the strongest, but because we think, adapt, and cooperate. We solve problems not through intimidation but through understanding. That is the strength I bring." A few council members exchanged skeptical glances. Another spoke, this one with a voice like chimes, melodic yet firm. You speak of cooperation and understanding, yet your people are so distant. How can we trust a species that we barely know? Eric took a steady breath. Trust is built, not demanded. That is why I am here. Humans learn quickly, adapt to new situations, and value honesty and integrity. These are not traits shown by force or fear. These are qualities that create lasting alliances and prevent conflict before it begins. Velera watched silently, her presence lending weight to every word. The council murmured again, questioning him, testing his logic and reasoning. They presented hypothetical dilemmas, asking how humans would respond to crises or moral challenges. Eric answered thoughtfully, drawing on principles rather than fear, showing that humans could approach problems with logic, empathy, and creativity. He faced one of the council's most intricate tests when a holographic map of a distant colony appeared before him. The projection showed a disaster scenario, a natural energy storm threatening a populated human settlement. How would your species respond, human? A counselor asked. Eric studied the map, noting every detail, and then replied. We would assess the situation carefully, gather data, and organize a response that protects the people first. Leadership in crises requires planning, cooperation, and empathy. We do not act impulsively or with intimidation. Our goal is preservation and understanding. The counselors leaned forward, intrigued despite themselves. Many of them had relied on force and authority to resolve conflicts within their empire. Eric's answers, calm and methodical, revealed a type of intelligence and strategy that they rarely witnessed outside their own species. Another test came when the council presented a challenge of diplomacy. Two alien factions in conflict over resources on a remote world. How would your species resolve this? The advisor asked. Eric considered it carefully. We would communicate directly with both parties, seeking understanding of their needs and motivations. Solutions are rarely found in coercion or power alone. True resolution comes from listening, compromise, and mutual respect. Humans are willing to take risks to reach understanding, rather than force compliance. A low hum of approval swept through the chamber, subtle but unmistakable. The council could not dismiss the logic in his answers. Even Velera's expression softened, her eyes reflecting a mix of admiration and surprise. The counselors attempted one final test, a scenario that required quick thinking and moral clarity. A crisis emerged on the holographic projection. A diplomatic envoy was lost in a region controlled by a hostile alien species. The council demanded Eric propose a solution that would rescue the envoys without inciting further conflict. Eric did not hesitate. We would use observation and intelligence first. We would attempt communication and negotiation before risking lives unnecessarily. Our priority is preservation, not domination. By understanding the motivations and culture of the other species, we can find a resolution that avoids escalation. Humans succeed when they act with foresight, integrity, and empathy. Velera's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. You are correct, human. Many of my counselors would have chosen force or intimidation. You choose understanding. That is rare. Eric smiled faintly. Understanding does not make us weak, Empress. It makes us resilient. It allows us to endure challenges that brute force cannot overcome. That is the strength of humanity. For a moment the chamber was silent. The counselors exchanged glances, reconsidering their assumptions. They had expected fear, hesitation, or flattery. Instead, they found clarity, courage, and unwavering integrity. Eric's presence challenged not only their expectations of humans, but their assumptions about leadership, morality, and strength. Finally, Velera stood, her voice calm but authoritative. Human, you have demonstrated not only the capabilities of your species, but the qualities that make them exceptional. You have faced my counsel without fear or submission, and you have answered every challenge with clarity, wisdom, and empathy. Few beings in this galaxy could have done what you have done today. Eric inclined his head slightly, acknowledging the praise without arrogance. I have only spoken honestly, Empress. Humans are not perfect, but we act with intention, understanding, and courage. That is what makes us valuable allies. Velera's gaze swept across the council. You have seen the human. You have judged them based on logic, observation, and interaction, not size or reputation. Consider carefully before dismissing them, for this species may surprise you in ways you do not expect. The council murmured, some nodding subtly, others still skeptical but thoughtful. The room's energy shifted, a quiet acknowledgement of the human who dared to stand tall without fear. Eric had not only survived the scrutiny, he had impressed even the most critical minds in Velera's empire. After the council session ended, Eric and his crew were escorted back to a smaller chamber for discussion with the Empress alone. Velera's expression was unreadable as she spoke. You have done more than survive the council, Eric Vale. You have begun to change minds that were long closed to humans. That is a remarkable achievement. Eric inclined his head. I sought only to show the value of humanity, Empress. If even one mind is changed, then progress has been made. Velera studied him for a moment, then gestured for him to sit. Tell me, human, do you believe that your people can maintain these values in the face of real challenges? The galaxy is not always kind. Fear, greed, and ambition often guide the actions of even the most powerful beings. Eric considered her question carefully. Humans are not perfect, Empress. We make mistakes, but our values, honesty, empathy, courage, and understanding, are enduring. Even when faced with challenges, we strive to act according to them. That is what allows humans to survive, adapt, and build lasting relationships. We learn from failure and we persist. Velera's lips curved into a faint smile, rare and genuine. You speak wisely, human. It is not often that I encounter a being who embodies their species so fully, and yet does not seek to dominate or manipulate. You stand as an example of the potential that humans hold. Eric felt a quiet pride, tempered by humility. I am but one human, Empress. But if my actions can represent the values of my species, then I am honored. Velera nodded, her gaze lingering on him thoughtfully. You have shown that strength is not measured by power alone. Courage, clarity, and integrity are equally important. Your people may have much to teach the galaxy, and perhaps even to my empire. As Eric left the chamber, he reflected on the day's events. He had faced the council, answered their tests, and demonstrated the strength of humanity not through fear or force, but through courage, empathy, and integrity. The council's skepticism had begun to waver, replaced by a cautious respect. Outside, the floating city gleamed under the twin suns. The spires and platforms seemed even more magnificent now, not just for their beauty, but for the opportunity they represented. Eric understood that the real challenge was only beginning, building lasting trust between humanity and the Empress Empire. But he was ready. Humans had faced countless challenges on Earth and beyond, and they had survived through intelligence, collaboration, and courage. Eric Vale knew that standing tall, even against the most powerful beings in the galaxy, was the first step toward proving that humanity's strength lay not in domination, but in integrity. And as he looked up at the towers and glowing energy fields, Eric felt a sense of quiet determination. He had earned attention, begun to shift perspectives, and planted the seeds of respect. The future of humanity in the galaxy was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humans would never bow out of fear. They would stand, think, and act with courage, shaping their destiny with every choice they made. The council chamber had quieted, the last echoes of debate fading into a soft hum of energy. Eric Vale walked through the corridors of the floating city with his crew close behind, each step measured but confident. The trials had tested his mind, heart, and spirit. The council had challenged him, and though skepticism lingered in their eyes, He had shown that humans were capable of clarity, courage, and understanding. Velora had requested that he meet her privately one final time. Her invitation carried a weight that Arik recognized immediately. This was more than a meeting. This was the Empress, acknowledgement of his place in her world, and perhaps the beginning of humanity's place in the galaxy. The chamber was quiet, filled with soft light from glowing crystalline panels. Velora stood near the center, her presence commanding yet unexpectedly approachable. Her eyes, sharp as ever, softened just slightly as she spoke. Arik Vale, you have accomplished what few outsiders could. You have passed trials designed to test intelligence, perception, empathy, and leadership. You have faced my counsel with clarity and integrity. And yet, the true measure is not in tests or words, but in understanding. Arik nodded, standing tall. I have done my best, Empress. I have acted according to the values of my people: courage, honesty, and empathy. That is all I can offer. Velora stepped closer, her gaze intent. You have demonstrated that humans are not merely resilient, but capable of foresight, understanding, and integrity. You have shown that even when faced with power far greater than your own, you can stand tall without fear. Few beings in this galaxy possess such strength of character. Arik smiled faintly. Strength comes in many forms, Empress. Humans survive not because of size or power, but because we think, adapt, and care. Our survival depends on understanding, not domination. Velora's eyes reflected a rare admiration. Perhaps you are right. Perhaps humans are underestimated not for lack of ability, but because others have failed to recognize the qualities that endure across time: courage, empathy, and the ability to act with integrity. You embody these qualities, human. Arik felt a quiet satisfaction. The Empress had acknowledged not only his efforts but the values of his species. Yet he knew this was only the beginning. Respect had been earned, but trust and alliance required ongoing effort. You have earned my respect, Arik Vale, Velora continued. But there is more at stake than your personal trials. The galaxy is vast, and conflict arises even among the most advanced civilizations. My empire has maintained stability through power, strategy, and careful control. Yet true stability is built not on fear but on cooperation. That is why your presence here matters. Arik's gaze did not waver. I understand, Empress. Humanity has endured through cooperation and understanding. That is what we can offer your empire, a partnership built on mutual respect and shared goals. Velora's expression shifted subtly, a hint of approval in her eyes. Your words are honest and your actions reflect them. Few beings would stand before me with such clarity and integrity. That is why I am willing to consider an alliance, not because you have proven obedience, but because you have proven insight and courage. Arik inclined his head. I am grateful, Empress. Not for honor, but for the opportunity to show that humans can contribute meaningfully to the galaxy. Velora gestured toward a large viewing panel, revealing a panorama of the Empire's reach. Distant planets, bustling cities, and glowing energy fields that connected them all. Observe this, Arik Vale. These are the worlds under my protection, the civilizations that rely on my decisions. Many of them have never encountered humans. Yet you have shown me that your species possesses qualities that can strengthen and enrich these worlds. This is not a small accomplishment. Arik studied the view, marveling at the scale of the empire. It is magnificent, Empress, and it is clear that your people value stability, knowledge, and the welfare of the civilizations under your care. Humanity can contribute to these goals not as subjects but as partners. Velora nodded. You understand far more than I anticipated. Many who come here seek power, influence, or favor. You seek understanding, collaboration, and integrity. That is rare, human. Arik's crew exchanged glances, amazed by the Empress' acknowledgement. Even the attendants seemed softened by the calm confidence he radiated. Arik remained focused, understanding that this moment was about more than personal recognition. It was about the future of humanity in the galaxy. You have not bowed, nor sought to manipulate, yet you have achieved what few could, Velora said. Tell me, human, what do you seek from this alliance? What is the true purpose of your presence here? Arik considered carefully. I seek mutual respect and cooperation, Empress. Humanity has faced countless challenges and endured. We offer insight, courage, and collaboration. Our goal is not conquest or dominance, but to work together to create understanding and stability. That is the value of humanity. Velora's eyes lingered on him, a mixture of curiosity and contemplation. You speak with conviction, and yet without arrogance. You offer insight without demanding reward. Few beings possess this balance. That is why I will extend my trust, not because it is owed, but because it is earned. Arik felt a sense of quiet triumph. This was not about obedience, submission, or flattery. It was about demonstrating the qualities that defined humanity. Thank you, Empress. I will honor your trust with every action I take. Velora inclined her head slightly. You have earned more than my acknowledgement, human. You have opened a door, a path for humanity to demonstrate its worth on a galactic scale. Many will doubt your species, but your actions today have proven that humans can act with integrity, courage, and wisdom. Arik nodded. I will continue to show that, Empress. Humanity is capable of more than fear or force. We endure because we act with thought, empathy, and cooperation. That is our strength. Velora's gaze softened, a rare display of warmth in her otherwise commanding presence. You have shown me the potential of your species, human. I will remember this day, and I will consider how best to integrate humanity into the affairs of my empire, not as subjects but as partners. Arik's heart swelled with quiet pride. He had stood where others would have knelt, spoken where others would have hesitated, and acted with integrity when others might have compromised. The galaxy was vast, complex, and unpredictable, yet he had proven that humanity's values could shine even in the presence of the most powerful beings. You have done more than survive the trials, Arik Vale, Velora continued. You have reminded me that strength is not always measured by power or fear, but by courage, clarity, and integrity. That is a lesson that even the most advanced civilizations sometimes forget. Arik bowed his head slightly, a gesture of respect rather than submission. I am honored to have shown this, Empress. I hope it is only the beginning of a lasting partnership between our peoples. Velora studied him silently, her eyes reflecting the depth of her thoughts. Then, with a subtle gesture, she signaled for his crew to join them. You have companions, human. They have supported you through the trials and the council. They too have demonstrated qualities worthy of respect. Let them also be acknowledged. Arik's crew stepped forward, standing proudly beside him. The Empress regarded them briefly, a quiet acknowledgement passing between them. Your companions are loyal and capable, she said. They have reflected your values in action, and that strengthens the impression humanity has made on this empire. The atmosphere in the chamber shifted, no longer tense but filled with a quiet sense of possibility. The council's earlier skepticism was replaced with curiosity. The attendants' formality softened into cautious openness, and the Empress herself seemed to contemplate the future with a new perspective. Arik Vale, Velora said finally, you have demonstrated that humans are capable of more than we assumed. You have acted with courage, integrity, and wisdom. That is rare, and it will not be forgotten. Your species may yet play a significant role in the affairs of this galaxy, not through fear or dominance, but through the enduring qualities you have shown. Arik felt a sense of fulfillment unlike any he had experienced before. Thank you, Empress. I will continue to uphold the values of humanity and to show that cooperation, courage, and empathy can create lasting change. Velora nodded thoughtfully. The trials, the council, and this conversation have revealed something important. The potential of a species is not measured solely by strength or technology, but by the choices its people make. Humans make choices that reflect clarity, courage, and integrity. That is a rare and valuable gift. Eric allowed himself a small smile. That is all any human can do, make the right choices, act with integrity, and endure. The Empress inclined her head, her expression thoughtful. You have earned not only my respect, Eric Vale, but the attention of my empire. The galaxy is vast and full of challenges, but I believe that humans can face them with courage and wisdom. Today, you have proven it. As Eric and his crew prepared to depart, the floating city bathed in the golden light of the twin suns, he felt a profound sense of purpose. The trials had tested him, the council had scrutinized him, and the Empress had acknowledged him. Humanity had begun to establish its place in a galaxy that had long underestimated it. He understood that the journey was far from over. There would be challenges, misunderstandings, and obstacles ahead. Yet he also knew that humans endured because they acted with clarity, courage, and integrity. Those qualities had carried him through the trials, and they would continue to guide him and his species into the future. As the floating platforms carried them toward the exit, Eric looked back at Velera, standing poised and regal, yet subtly changed by their interactions. A connection had been forged, not through fear or submission, but through respect, courage, and understanding. Humans are remarkable, Velera murmured to herself as they departed. Perhaps we have underestimated them all along. Eric smiled faintly, not because of pride, but because of the understanding they had achieved. Humanity had shown that even in the presence of immense power, courage, integrity, and empathy could leave a mark. The galaxy was vast and full of uncertainty, but one thing was clear: humans would never bow out of fear. They would stand, think, and act with honor. And as the stars stretched before them, Eric Vale knew that this was only the beginning. A new era of cooperation, respect, and shared purpose had begun, and humanity's true potential in the galaxy was just beginning to unfold. The trials, the council, and the Empress herself had revealed a truth that would endure. Courage, clarity, and integrity could change minds, bridge species, and shape the future of the galaxy. And humanity, standing tall and unwavering, had already begun to write its legacy among the stars.